effectively, I'm going to be looking at the two primary contenders or players on the market that foreigners use that works pretty well overall. I've not had much of a response or seen anything negative that really says otherwise, but they work well and it certainly works well for me. Okay, so what we'll look at is what I would say are the best operational individuals or particular services, right? So let's look at Maya and Gcash. You probably already heard about this if you've been watching videos, but let's go through each of these and give a comparison and what my opinions are and which ones I use and which one generally most people seem to run with and what the commercial aspects are of them here and how often and how popular they are to be used in shops, local restaurants, travel, and other things like that. So let's look at the contenders, like I said, of PayPal, sorry, Maya and Gcash. So PayMaya is actually a service that's based on a banking establishment. What I mean by that is they have the fallback or the contingency of a bank. They have securities that protects users and those that are actually using the system in any way. You have this fallback. So let's just say they went into liquidation, for example, or they go to the wall for some reason. You have a means of recouping your loss or recouping what money they have on the system that you've put in that account. Now, on the other hand, if we look at Gcash, Gcash isn't actually a bank as such. They were designed specifically to operate as a service, a digital service for use with the likes of smart internet systems, mobile devices, just so you can transfer money between them. You buy something, you can either buy it in the shop, a voucher, or you can go to the banks or any of the financial services here in the Philippines and just top up, even the supermarkets. So they don't actually operate or have the establishment and the securities of a bank like Maya does. Okay, so let's get that very clear. Those two, and that would be the real, I should say, stumbling block in terms of what each offer and what you as a subscriber or user may or may not be happy with. Okay, right now, as I mentioned before, I've not seen anything historically that says Gcash has had any major issues. So maybe it's before 15, 20 years ago that possibly something happened. I don't know. I didn't go that far back. I went back about 10 years. So anyway, so let's look at Maya again. With my Maya account, for example, I can actually do digital transfer. Say, in my circumstances, I use Remitly. I found Remitly to be the best of all the other transfer services I've used, which is World Remit, which is MoneyGram, which is I can't remember the other one. There's about three or four others, but I find generally this one A charges you less, B is much faster. You know, within 10 minutes your money, 10 to 30 minutes your money's in. Depends on which options you go for. But let's just look at it in the general perception and active perspective of using it. If you use it standard use, 30 minutes, your money's in your account. Now, with these transfers, let's just look at what they get from it and what you get from it and what the process is. Remitly, I use Remitly from UK. And what I do is because Remitly is also based in the UK and the US as main offices, I guess what happens is if I transfer money as pounds to Remitly, that's what they receive, and from there on they transmit or they transfer it by exchange rate services to dollars so that I can receive it here as pesos. Now, what they get, the money they get from that, the benefits they get from doing this transfer service is via that intermediary. They actually give you the best price, and I've looked this up. The price I see online for the dollar, for example, which I'm operating on, will actually show what the rate is for today. But what happens is when you go through Maya or sorry, Remitly or any of those MoneyGram, whatever, they will actually take a cut on that transfer service. So by the time you make a transfer and the time it gets sent through, it could be 30 minutes, right? 25, 30, 15 minutes. They make some sort of a clawback on that of that transfer service. I don't know how it works because I can't be clear about that. But I do know that they make money on that. Now, what tends to happen as well is at the first time you use it, any of these Gcash, Remitly, MoneyGram, money of those, you find that they allow you, say, a certain percentage of transfers, maybe 10%, 10 transfers per month, and then they might start charging you a minimum fee. I've used mine, and I've been fine up until like about 2 months ago that I've seen they've taken maybe $2 for my transactions, which is nothing. It's pittance. Now, I won't go into the banking side just yet. Let's just stick with these two guys, right? So, Remitly transferred my money, and I can see the rates I'm going to get before I action it. So, here's the thing. If you want to use Remitly and use a credit card, it's a different price service to if you use it directly from your bank accounts. It could be because they see that as a security should something go wrong. They've got your bank account. Okay, but they can't access your account unless you give them the go ahead. You give them the thumbs up. You've got to go for your app to authorize whatever transaction is going to go on. So, for example, I use NatWest. If I send Remitly some money, they will set up a third-party service, which is all above board, and it's by the FCA, right, the Financial Authority. And what happens is they would take me to my NatWest app, and from the app I have to then sign in, and then from within the app I can select which account I want that money to be transferred from, and then I have to authorize it in my WhatsApp, in my NatWest app. Now that comes up as a flash on the screen. It says, "Do you authorize this?" And I say yes or no. Obviously, it's all about security. Now I don't know how each application or banking service works, but for NatWest, that's what they do. They give me the option to authorize it. If I don't authorize it, that money doesn't come out. So that's a great safety feature for me. So anyway, moving forward. So when I say yes and authorize that, the money then gets taken out of the account, it's transferred to Remitly. Remitly then sends you a message saying, okay, we've got your account, we're awaiting the transfer from your bank, and then they keep updating you. They take you to their app, and the app will show you waiting, waiting, waiting. And over the period of the 30 minutes, you will find it says transfer has been made, then it will say pending transfer, pending conversion, and it will show you all the breakdown as you're watching the app doing the changes, and then it will send you a message saying completed, and then you know the money comes up on my Gcash or Maya. It comes up and flashes, say, okay, you've just received money from Christopher Jones, this amount of money in pesos range, and then I can go to my Maya or my Gcash and I can see this happening. So that really is very good. Now, if we look at the other option, let's just say use your credit card. For a start, a credit card, you, as anyone else know, a credit card is borrowing money before you've actually got the money. So in other words, you don't have that money, so you're borrowing money from the bank to pay for something in the ideal situation of being able to pay it back within a 30-day period so you don't get clobbered by interest rates. That's how a credit card generally works. A debit card is basically a direct link to your bank account. So when money comes out from your debit card, it's instantly removed from your bank account. That's the difference. It's coming out from funds you have set in your bank account, whereas credit card is you borrowing on the premise you're going to get that money back into the account before set days, 30 days generally. Okay? So that's the reason why I choose that route, and I think it works out cheaper because some credit cards will actually charge you for that transfer. They will charge you because it's an international transfer. If it's not done within your company, like Remitly is in UK, I get it done to you, pounds out to pounds into Remitly, and then Remitly do the other stuff. So that's a great way to get around that. If it's in your country and you transfer it within your own currency, then you're not going to get charged. Makes sense, right? Okay. Gcash, it's very similar, except that Gcash, as I mentioned, um, you don't have that security of knowing it's a bank. You have no fallback. You can go through all kinds of parameters to try and get that set up, but they just don't have a banking system or establishment that says, yeah, we'll protect you. There must be some sort of protection within the digital system, but how strong that is and how effective that is, I am not inclined to want to find out. So, but Gcash is just as good, or actually, it's much more preferred here in the Philippines by Filipinos, and I've seen a lot of foreigners using it more than anything else. That could be because of its popularity in all the major sales points of sales, major retailers, wholesalers online when you're using it even for buying a train ticket or an air flight ticket or a hotel. So it's much more widely used. Though Maya is pretty much catching up now. It's just that maybe they need to pay more money and advertise more. Anyway, going back to Gcash. Gcash works well as well. What I have to say is for me personally, Gcash works well if you're in strong signal areas. In other words, if you're in the mainland like Cebu, the Manila, maybe Dumaguete, stuff like that, it works pretty good. But when you start going off island into smaller islands, the more provincial areas, you'll find the internet doesn't work very well. The GCAS system seems to stumble and you've got to do it again, which gives you concern because you think, oh, did it go through? Did it not go through? And then you have to keep going back to your Gcash or to your bank account to confirm it's not being actioned. Yeah. So that's the fallback I found with Gcash. But Gcash works similar and pretty much effectively once it's running. You click on something, you transfer your money, it goes there within 30 minutes from your Remitly to there. Same thing. It's there. You can see the flashes up, tells you, okay, your money's in. But it doesn't give you the same step-by-step relay of information as Maya does. Because the Maya app, as I said, it shows you transferring from bank, waiting for bank, transferred, received, waiting for conversion, where Gcash doesn't do that. It just tells you at the end, transfer done, cash has arrived at your bank in your digital account, bang, you go and check it, you know. All right? That's the main two differences. Now, they both work well, as I say, but you need to be sure which one you really want to use. But for me personally, I have both loaded to my phone. I've got Gcash and I've got Maya. And depending on which one I need to use at which particular time on which island, I will then get it running and it will go. What I found then as well, when you go to the islands, you'll find the smaller islands and provinces, you'll find most shops, the small retail shops, the mid shops, they don't really want to use much of these things. They prefer cash. They'll tend to push you for cash. Though you'll see the sign for Gcash, you don't see much Maya. It's probably because they also see that it fails a lot if you're in those small places. So it's about choices and effectiveness wherever you go. Right, guys, I hope that helps. But what I will do is I'll continue making another one and add more to this in a part two. All right? Thanks so much, Chris, about digital transfers and banking.